if you build it, they will come. So there's so much more that goes into building a website than just like slapping it on the internet. And while that, like you said, some website is better than no website, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are just going to flock to your website. So you do need to consider strategy. You need to understand that building up your SEO will take time, and that you need to use your website in your sales funnel and not just throw it on the internet.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Expert. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as a founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another couple great guests on the podcast, Austin and Monica Mangelson, and they are going to be talking a bit about web design. So kind of, web design in general, what is it? What kind of features you may want to think about having on your homepage, how to captivate an audience, how do you do that with both words and designs, how to clearly and quickly share your message, and what are some of the pieces on the website that plays into the overall sales funnel. So should be a great discussion, and excited to have them on. And with that much as introduction, welcome on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Devin.
Excited to be here.
Excited to have you on. So now, before we dive into the topics at hand, and as a reminder to the audience, so we had you guys on the Inventive Journey. So if you haven't caught that episode, definitely invite you to go and check that out on the sister podcast with the Inventive Journey. But for those that have either haven't caught the episode or just saying, hey, I don't want to, I'm already listening to a half-an-hour episode, I don't have time for another half an hour, whatever the case may be, give the audience a quick introduction to you guys.
Yeah, so too many online business owners don't have a brand and a website that clearly and cohesively explain their expertise to their audience. So because of that, we have created A&M Digital Design together. We are a husband and wife duo who specialize in creating websites and brands for online business owners, so that it can look and feel like pros while totally owning their online space.
Awesome. Well, that was a great introduction. So now, without any further ado, diving into the topic at hand. And so I think that there's a lot of things that we can talk about with web design. Now, one of the things we didn't tease out, but I'm going to raise a question anyway, because it's one that I hear and I see a lot, which is, I guess, the myth that people, or I'll call it a myth, maybe you can tell me it's not, but is that people feel like, you have websites like Shopify, you have Square, Squarespace, you have Webflow, you have a whole bunch of them that are out there that generally pitch that, hey, you can do this yourself. It'll be just as great as all the other amazing websites out there that people spend thousands and millions of dollars creating, and you can do it in a matter of a few minutes. And, one of my favorite pastimes is I love to go on law firm websites is go and make fun of them, just because I think there's a lot of terrible law firm websites out there that just, they look pretty, they look nice. Most law firms will do it, but they have zero information, aren't helpful at all to the customers. And other than letting people know you have a website and you might be able to get a phone number, that's about it. So with that as a backdrop, is it a myth, or can you create your own website, or why would you go and have a web designer? Kind of what are the benefits? What would be the motivation to go and kind of do it? And maybe when would you decide to do it yourself? And I know that's a compound question, so I'll see if you guys can answer.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. I think you're right in saying, like, there are so many different platforms, and this is kind of an ambiguous answer, but a lot of times it just depends. First of all, choosing what platform to build your website on, it really depends on what your business is. And there's a lot of people who have heard of or use WordPress. That's a really popular one. And that's really good if you want like a really powerful, robust website that does a lot of things. A lot of the businesses that we work with specifically don't need something that's complex. And so there's a lot of smaller ones. There's website platforms that are geared a lot more towards smaller businesses. Like a lot of the ones you just named, there's Squarespace, and we work on Showit. So, you got to take a look at what your business is, like what you're doing and what you want to do with your website. And that'll help you kind of narrow down on what platform you want. Trying to decide whether or not you need a designer to do that for you. I mean, there's also a lot of depends that goes on in that. I think you can definitely start off, if you are just a first-time business owner and it's more of a side thing and you're just trying to, make some extra income on the side while you're learning how to do your business and share what you do with other people online, like DIYing your website's not a terrible way to go. It's a great place to start to kind of get your feet in the water. But there comes a point where if you really want to grow your business and you really want to make a larger impact and make more of a difference with your business, then the purpose of hiring a website designer is that there's a lot more than just slapping some stuff up on the internet and calling it good. Like there's I think two really main paths that converge in a website. You need really good design, and then you need really good strategy. And there needs to be intentionality in what you put on your website, and that's where a designer would come in hand.
So taking that, and I agree with all of that, and I always kind of do it. A website is better than nothing at all. So if you don't have any budget, I kind of say that same thing with the patent. If all you have is $1, go file your own patent, or it's a little more than $1 even with the filing fees, but that kind of an idea. But there, if you're looking to, as your business develops and grows, and you're looking to have a polished or a good website that conveys what you want, that converts people, that performs the function that you're looking to do, which is selling your product or your service, there comes a point where it makes sense to have someone else that has more experience do that. Now, one of the, I think difficulties is a lot of people, if you see a good website, you generally don't realize it's a good website because it's intuitive, it's easy to navigate, and it makes sense. Now, if you see a bad website, you generally say, this is a horrible website.
That's a lot easier to tell.
It's a lot easier to tell. But so what are some of the features or kind of things on a website? And we'll start out with maybe with the homepage that are features that you should be considering or thinking about, whether it's you have, if you're trying to find a good web designer that you're going to hire, or you're going to try in the difficult task of doing it yourself. What are some of the things you think should consider on features for a homepage?
Yeah, so I guess that's our goal here, is we definitely want to give tips for people who, in either space, I guess. If you're trying to do this on your own, like there's definitely some things to be aware of, and that's what we're hoping to get across today. The first thing, as we were talking about different things that we could share, one of the biggest things that came to mind for both of us is how important it is to have a skimmable website. You're talking about when you hop on a website, it's easy to tell pretty quickly whether it's going to be a good website or a bad website. First impression, probably 90% of the first impression of a website is based on design. So you got to make it look nice, and you got to make it look like it's something that you can just skim through. You don't want big chunks of text. You don't want lots of stuff in there that people aren't going to want to take the time to read, because they won't take the time to read it.
So now I'll push back. No, I don't know, push back. That sounds like it's adversarial. But one of the questions I'd have is, there are some websites that look really nice, and I do think, very first impression, kind of like you can't judge a book by a cover, but everybody does judge a book by its cover. Same thing on the website, which it has to look nice. If it looks like it's homemade, or it's, it has unfocused pictures, or that you can't read it, or it's terrible color scheme, it's you typically don't stay on that website very long. But let's say you make it look nice, but same thing as I mentioned with law firms. Most law firm websites look nice. Now, they don't convert. You typically can't get anything on what the products they sell or what services they offer. You don't know how to contact them. It's hard to reach out to them. Usually you fill out a form that is just, puts it out to somewhere, and you're hoping that you hear back, but you never really know if you're going to hear back, and all of those things. So let's say you get beyond the initial hurdle. It looks nice. It looks polished. It has pretty pictures on it. What are some of the other features that you should be considering?
Yeah. So right off the bat, in the top section of your website, it's called the hero section. And you need to be able to answer any viewer who lands on your website needs to be able to answer three things. They need to answer who you are, who you serve, and then how they can work with you. And if those three things are not answered right off the bat, then you've missed a huge opportunity, because now you have people staying on your website who don't belong on your website, or people leaving your website who do belong on your website. So that is like one of the simplest things that you can change right on your homepage to like instantly clarify your message, clarify who's on your website and what they're looking for on your website.
And you want that answered before people even start to scroll. You know, it's like they land there and they know immediately that it's for them or it's not for them.
Awesome. So you make it now, what are some of the characteristics that, to maybe dive into the nuts and bolts kind of, let's say you were doing, and I'll give you an example, because at least for me, it's always easier to have an example. Let's say I hired you today, probably won't hire today, full disclosure, just because we've already gone through this exercise. But if I were to hire you today and say, hey, Miller IP Law, we want to do a brand new website. We want to scrap the old one. We want to start from scratch, or we just getting started and we didn't have a website. What are some of the things, nuts and bolts of images, pictures, and also kind of copyright in the sense of what text and how do you make it skimmable? What are some of the, what was some of the things, either questions you'd ask me or things that you'd recommend if you're going to go out and build our website?
Yeah, so the first thing we would need to hash out with you is who exactly you're targeting, because your website, well, it needs to represent you and your business needs to cater towards the people that you're targeting. So if you're targeting female entrepreneurs, that's going to look really different than if you're targeting big businesses, if that makes sense. So we'd flesh out with you who you're working with, so that we can build that strategy into the website, and that'll change everything from the images, from the colors, from the fonts, all the things that you would put on a website need to reflect who you are trying to serve. So that's kind of where we'd start.
The next question I would probably ask right after, sorry.
I was going to say, so I've had, because some of that, I've gone through enough businesses and I've talked with enough businesses. Ones, if they come back and I'll hear two answers, which are both not at all helpful, but I hear them all the time, which is one, everybody will want to buy our product and it appeals to everybody around the world and it's something that everybody needs. Or two, I don't know. In other words, I don't know who my customer is. I just think it's a cool product. If you get those kind of answers, how do you go about doing that? Is if you're trying to build a website or designing it and they come back and say either I don't know or everybody's going to want to buy my product, neither of which are very helpful.
Yeah, so I think it's funny, like, and we've been in this space before when we talk to people, we ask like who are you trying to cater to? Like, who are you trying to serve? And they'll say like, oh, whoever will buy from me, like, whoever wants to pay me for my services. I'm like, I mean, that's great, but also not great, because you need to focus on people so that you can speak their language. You want to pull out the emotions of the person that you want to buy your products. And so you might ask things like, demographics is a pretty basic place to start. You want to know maybe their age group, because if you're talking to boomers on your website versus talking to millennials, you're going to speak differently, So maybe age group, gender, location, where do they live? Are they on the East Coast? Are they in the Midwest? That can make a difference too. So maybe ask some of those questions, and then you could ask, okay, what emotions are they feeling before they buy from you? Like if they're coming to you for a patent, like are they anxious because they don't want their stuff, their intellectual property to get stolen? Are they I don't know what else would be like, what emotions are they feeling before they work with you? Why would they come to you? And then, you can speak to those problems so that those people who you want it to offer your products or services to are attracted.
Yeah, your business only exists if you solve somebody's problem. So you need to figure out what problem you're solving and who you're solving it for, and then highlight that on your website and cater your website to those people.
No, and I think that's a great way, and I think a good exercise, and that's one that you should know for your business in general. In other words, and it's funny because we ask a lot of the same questions on the patent. Like what is the problem you're solving, or what are you trying to improve, or how is it different than what else is out there? Now we're doing that so we can identify what to protect, but in the same sense, that's what you're trying to protect in the patent side is also what you're trying to convey in your website as to why what will pull people in. So. Now with that, so a lot of times the other thing that people often I think will get into and is that they'll go back to one of the things that you hit on, which I definitely think is true, which is, hey, it needs to look pretty, it needs to look professional, or it needs to look polished, or whatever the word is. And I would just say pretty just needs to have nice looking graphics, which it seems like maybe that's half the battle or part of the battle. But it does still have to have words, or it has to have a clear message that you articulate that they can quickly grasp. And so now how do you how do you convey that in words with that? Well, making it skimmable so there's not a large chunks of text and lots of things that they have to read that nobody wants to read, while not just erring on the side of, hey, I'll just put all graphics and we'll just tell our picture through, or our story through pictures and never have any information on there. How do you find that balance, or kind of what words do you look at, or how do you go about starting to convey that message?
Those are all great questions.
That's a great question. I think, I mean, to your point, you definitely still need words on there, because although people are going to skim, like they'll still read some things. They are still on your website looking for information. Apart from the fact that having words and content on your website helps with SEO, and it helps your website be found online. Google's going to find that when there's words, because Google can't search words in pictures, obviously. But a couple of things come to mind. I think in the design world, we call it visual hierarchy. You can call it visual importance. The words that are most important, you want them to be bigger. You can bold them, just make them stand out visually. And then more of the descriptive text or the supportive text can be a little bit smaller. You can put it in a shorter paragraph. And so that as you're skimming, you can, like, the words that stand out are the words that are most important, that you want people to see first. So that's really going to help. You can take things like, if you have a list of things, like if you're talking about maybe the different services you offer, or if you're talking about the problems that your customer is experiencing, put them in bullet points. And having a bullet pointed list is going to make it easier to read the content and kind of in a more natural way than trying to find a list of things in a paragraph. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I think that definitely makes sense. So with that, so now one question I'll push, I don't know, I keep saying push back, and I need to find a better word, because I really don't push back, but kind of a follow-up question to that, you know, are those words, or the, you know, the bold words, the big words, the ones that catch your attention, you know, is that just, hey, our product's awesome and it's amazing, or is it, here's, you know, cheap and inexpensive, or better than the competition, or, you know, and I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that you see, or is it more of telling a story, or is it more of, you know, catchphrases, or your taglines, or kind of a combination of both, or kind of when you're, because as you guys keep saying, and I always, and I agree, is it needs to be skimmable. It needs to be easy to navigate, easy to very quickly to grasp the concept, because you only have a few seconds to grab their attention before they either decide to dwell on your website a bit more, or go look at buying your product or service, or they move on. And so how do you balance? Because, you know, if all you just say is, I got awesome, amazing, great products, good customer service, we think outside the box, we have lots of synergy, all the buzzwords, doesn't really convey anything. But how do you find that balance of, you only have a few words to convey a lot of information?
Right. And I think the easiest answer to that question, well, first of all, it's on a case-by-case basis a little bit, but also if you focus on the transformation your product or service is going to take the consumer through, and focus on, if they have this problem, they want to get from point A to point B, you are the solution, and focus on how you are the solution, and focus on their end goal of this problem, you know.
So now how do you break that down? And so we'll go to the same just Miller IP law, just because it's an easy example. So what I can think of off the top of my head, but, you know, let's say we have we're competitive as far as pricing goes. We have good customer service. We have transparency. We're easy to communicate with. We follow up well. We have the heart of a teacher's. I mean, some of those, everybody's going to say that they have them. And so while it's true, and we have, that's, you know, a lot of things we pride ourselves on, which do in reality differentiate ourselves, it's also hard because nobody says they have bad customer service. Everybody says they're responsive, and nobody goes out and says, yeah, we're super expensive and only pay or come to us if you have lots of money, and those type of things. So how do you go about, if those are your things that you pride yourself on as a service-based business, as an example, how do you still go about distinguishing, or so that it can better conveys what that should mean?
Right. So I think this is an awesome example. So you can look at Miller IP law, and you can say, okay, right now, there are business owners who are scared of losing their stuff, who are scared of people stealing their ideas. They want to be confident and competent and not have to worry about anyone taking their stuff, because they know that you guys are protecting them, right? And then obviously how they get there is through your good customer service and through your good prices and things like that. And that's all part of the process of getting to where they want to be. So instead of focusing on the process, you're going to focus on the fact that we can promise you that you are going to be safe, that no one is going to steal your stuff. And if they do, that you have the ability to fight back. And then as they scroll down through your website, then you're going to say, this is how we do it. We have good communication. We have great prices, you know, but they know right off the bat that you are promising to get them from point A to point B. Does that make sense?
It does, although I'll push back. Now the word actually makes sense, which is that's what all law firms say, right? In other words, that's why you go to an IP law firm. And so, I think, and the reason I'm asking the question or pushing back is because I think it's a lot of the struggle of there are things that you do different, but when you try and boil it down to simple words, you know, make it skimmable, make it easy to understand, break it down so that it's easy to digest and conveys your message, it's hard not to water it down to the point you sound just like everybody else, right? So if I were to say, as an example, everybody goes to an IP law firm or patent and trademark law firm because they want to protect or they have the fear. And so if I were to convey that as my message, that's the same message that I would say see on almost all law firms. And so is it better to reflect that, hey, this is a problem that all law firms are solving, and make sure to reflect that? Or how do you distinguish or stand out so that you can make your landing page and website better than the competition?
Mhm. I think it all comes with putting it all together to tell a story. And so you know, you want to talk about your customer as if they're the winner of this story, right? They're the hero of the story, and you're guiding them through this. And so you're going to talk a little bit about their problems, like we're talking about, and you just listed them off. And I think that is really important to still state, even if it's kind of intuitive, like, well, of course, that's why you're coming to a law firm. Like, that's what everyone comes to a law firm for. I still think it's important to state it because people purchase emotionally. And then, you know, so you want to pull out those emotions, remind them why they're interested, and make them feel, not just think about it, but make them feel like they really need your services. And then you're going to present the solution, and that, you know, you can talk about all those benefits of why you versus the other guys. And then you can very explicitly point out the successes. Like, once you've gone through this process, you're going to feel this, you're going to have that, and kind of point out, you know, like Monica was saying earlier, the transformation. And then you can also point out maybe some of the things that would happen if they don't work with you, like some of the failures of not coming to your law firm for a patent, you know. And then when you piece it all together, I think that does make you stand out against other law firms, because not everyone, you know, not as many people focus on every piece of the story, and they don't all string it together. They might focus on one or two things, but when you put everything together and it tells the story of, you know, through your website and through all the content that you're putting out, then that's when you stand out against, you know, the competition.
No, I think that definitely makes sense. And if I push back, it's not because I don't agree with you. It's just the ones that I always hear, the ones I always see, especially working startup, is these are the questions that I think they, you know, that a lot of them struggle with, because it isn't that. And that's why I think that when we talked at the very beginning about web design and why you'd go to an expert and why you'd go to someone that has a lot of experience, I think these are the things that a lot of times you don't realize on the front end, or you don't really think about. And that's the things that, you know, as we've built our team and have a pretty creative team, and I started out doing everything, and now I've had people on the team that do a lot of this, things that I've learned that I didn't realize at the beginning. And so one of the other things, and probably shifting gears, and it'll probably be the last topic just because we're running towards the end of the podcast, but I did want to ask a question, which is, I think one of the other ones that I didn't think about as much, but I become much more cognizant of, is also having the right types of calls to action. Calls to action is people, you know, for people that may not be as familiar with terminology, is, you know, telling them what you want them to do when they come to your website. And is that buy? Is that schedule a free consult? Is that, you know, give us your email information so we can put you on our newsletter? Whatever is the most important. But, you know, there's some great ways and there's some horrible ways. You know, some of the horrible ways that I hate are all the annoying pop-ups that, you know, you get 50 pop-ups and you have to keep hitting the X button before you can even get to the website. But vice versa, you'll also have some websites that really don't have a clear call to action. And even if you want to give them your money, or you want to, or use their service or buy their product, you don't really know how. So how do you kind of balance that of getting the right call to act, figuring out what your call to action is and getting the right call to action?
Yeah, so you're going to want to focus on the very next step that the viewer needs to take to work with you. So like, obviously like our call to action is not going to be like pay us now for our services. It's going to be instead book a call so we can talk to you about what services you need. And then you want to be really careful to be super direct. A lot of people try to be kind of cutesy and clever here, but like people don't need that. They need you to tell them, this is the next step. This is how you take it. This is how you work with us. I'm trying to remember what other questions you asked.
Well, I think this is a really good full circle back to the beginning of the conversation. When you were talking about when you first start building out your website or working with a designer to build your website, what questions are you going to ask? And one of those questions is, what is the goal of your website? Are you creating a website just to showcase your work and your portfolio? Are you building a website so that people can book your services on a calendar? Is it purely educational and informative? And so you're going to know that goal from the very beginning. And then based on that goal, that's going to guide your call to action. And so if the purpose of like for us, the purpose of our website, it has multiple purposes, but in ranking them, if we were to pick one, it would be so that people can book a discovery call with us and learn about, what package they would need. And so all of our call to actions are book a call or join a call or something like that. And so that's going to, that's going to determine what you say. And like Monica said, you want to be direct with it.
No, I think that definitely makes sense. I think that's some great guidance, and as with all of it, I think it is specific to the business. It does depend, but I think there are good practices that really, regardless of your website, you should be implementing. And I think you guys shared a lot of them, so definitely appreciate that. And now with that, as we kind of reach towards the end of the podcast, we always have the question we ask at the end. We also do have the bonus question. We're going to talk a little bit about one crazy entrepreneurial idea, which is always a fun follow-on discussion. So if you want to hear that, make sure to stay tuned after we wrap up the normal episode to hear that crazy idea. But before we get that, and for the normal last question at the end of the podcast, we'll jump to that now, which is, within your industry, what is the biggest myth and why is it wrong?
Yeah, I think our myth that we came up with actually just sums up this episode so perfectly. And our myth is if you build it, they will come. So there's so much more that goes into building a website than just like slapping it on the internet. And while that, like you said, some website is better than no website, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are just going to flock to your website. So you do need to consider strategy. You need to understand that like, building up your SEO will take time, and that you need to use your website in your sales funnel and not just throw it on the internet.
No, I think that is one of the bigger myths is, if I have and it can be a very nice, well thought out, planned out, perfect website and hit all of the things that you guys hit on. And yet it's only a part of the funnel. In other words,
Right.
As great as website as you have, if you don't have a plan for how you're going to drive traffic to it, how you're going to convert people, how they're going to find out about it or know about it, it doesn't matter how great of a website that's built and it's part of the funnel. It's not the whole funnel, or it's not the whole or the sum of the whole. So I think that's a great one to hit on.
That was awesome. That was very well said.
All right. Well, I do my best to summarize things or make it sound smart. So with that, now as we wrap up, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Yeah, so definitely through our website is a great place to reach us. It's andmdigitaldesign.com, and is spelled out. So AANDM digitaldesign.com. Also on Instagram, we're always there, and it's ANM.digitaldesign. Again, and is spelled out. And we also actually have a freebie that if you're interested in just learning more, you have a website, you want to take it to the next level, we have a freebie offer on our website that is a free 5-day video training from us, giving you really practical short tips to take your current website to the next level.
You can consider an extension of this episode. We talk about a lot of it's very similar stuff on there. So.
Awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate the offer and definitely encourage people to take you up on it. So Well, with that, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you that are listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, we just have a couple things for you. Make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review, because we want to make sure everyone finds out about all this great expertise and how to build and grow their business. With that, if you ever need help with any of your business, as patents, trademarks, or anything else with your business, you can just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. So now, as we've wrapped up the, quote unquote, the normal or the regular portion of the episode, it's always fun to switch gears a bit and do the bonus question. The bonus question is kind of one that I always have fun, because I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, certainly me included, you always kind of have that someday pile, that day that, you have those crazy ideas that aren't so crazy that someday you'd love to pursue. You may never actually get to, you may never have the bandwidth, but are always those fun ideas that it would, are going to always kind of stick in the back of your mind. And so with that, I turn it over to you guys to share. What is your one crazy entrepreneurial idea?
We have a pretty big someday pile, so we had to go dig in.
A really good friend and mentor of mine once said that for every 20 ideas, she throws out one sticks. But for us, it's more like for every 100 ideas, we throw out one sticks. So we have quite the pile of ideas we would like to pursue someday. But
yeah, the one that we brought up with you earlier was, so we've spent some time in different countries, and we've really enjoyed learning about the different traditions, holiday traditions that people have, especially revolving around holidays that we're already familiar with. Like Christmas is a huge one. Everyone celebrates Christmas a little bit differently. And so we got this idea. I think we got it from this place called Universal Yums. They'll send you a package of different foods and snacks from different countries around the world. It's awesome. We're not sponsors, but we highly recommend you go check it out. But we had this idea, like, what if we send people holiday boxes based off of Christmas? And so obviously there's a lot of stuff that we haven't worked out yet, but it could be like, you get this box, and in this box there's maybe a booklet that shares stories about Christmas traditions or Christmas stories that are shared in this country. You'll get some snacks that are traditionally eaten during Christmas time in this country, and you can get some different things like that to learn about how this country and this culture celebrates a holiday that you're already familiar with. So that was our idea. We don't know how to work it out yet, but that's our idea.
Hey, I like the idea. I like their gift boxes. One of the things that we did, kind of a bit different note, but on there with this year for Christmas. So I usually as the owner of the law firm, try and give some sort of gift to each of the employees or the people to support the team. And every year is a bit different. Some years we've done dinner, or one year we rented out the movie theater and did that for fun. And it's kind of one of those where it's one and done. In other words, you go, you have the activity, and then it's over. And so this year we did a bit different, where I did, everybody got to select their own subscription box. And so some people did marshmallows of the month. Some people did cookies of the month. I think some people did a sock of the month. Some people did succulents of the month. And it's just kind of fun that it was different. So I'm a big believer. I think gift boxes are fun. And if you could do that related to Christmas, and whether you have one that's just, around the world, I think it'd be fun around the world, where you could see maybe as you're leading up to Christmas, different things from around the world that's related to Christmas. You start in November and you kind of build it up. So love the idea. I'm a convert. So I think that's a great one to put in your someday pile. So with that, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Great.
Thank you so much, Devin.
For having us.